On today's episode of Locked On Wild, Matty Beniers cashed in with a new mega deal. What does it mean for Marco Rossi?
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Wild. We are your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, and we are your team each and every day. We thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, we take a look at some interesting comments from Bill Guerin regarding the goalie situation for the Minnesota Wild this upcoming season. We'll also talk about how Matty Beniers' new contract extension could play into Marco Rossi's upcoming deal. We'll take a look at a couple of other contracts that could weigh in on that as well. And as we talked about, for those of you that caught our live show yesterday, Bally's is back. We'll talk about what this means for the future of Minnesota Wild broadcasting on today's show as well. My name is Seth Toupal, your daily Minnesota Wild insider, joined by one of yesterday's guests, Alex Micheletti. And Alex, before we dive into everything we've got on the show today, I do just want to extend a couple of thank yous again to everybody that tuned in or showed up to watch the live show yesterday. We had a great panel of guests. And big thank you to Zambonis on 7th for hosting. Big shout out to Denny for helping put everything together and kind of organizing the whole thing. Because, I'm going to be fully honest, I've never done any sort of a live show before. And so it was good to have some guidance as to how to make all of that happen. And it was a lot of fun. We had a great time for those 3 hours. They flew by. And I'm going to go back and listen to most of it, pretty much all of it, and see what we can pull for potential episodes here as the week unfolds. But was glad to have you as part of the crew, and we had a great time yesterday.
Yeah, so much fun. Just we're getting so close to the regular season too, so it was just fun to talk about hockey, chop it up with the group, and how good was Hoppy too, and Zach and
Alexis, Mariah. Zach was great.
The insights from the PWHL were phenomenal. Just hearing more in depth about the league for sure.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, everybody came for the guest of honor for the 2 to 3 o'clock hour. So we got a good amount of Denny too, which was, just, it was everything Locked On Wild listeners could have hoped for, all in a 3-hour show. So like you said, hockey season is very close. We're less than a month out. It's getting close to like 3 weeks before the preseason gets started. And a recent article in The Athletic kind of piqued my interest. We talked about this a little bit in the live show yesterday. Joe Smith, with the help of Shayna Goldman, how should the Minnesota Wild handle Marc-Andre Fleury's swan song? Ex-NHL goalies on 3-man rotations and playing at 40, because here are some direct quotes from Bill Guerin in regards to what we will see from the goalie rotation this year. Guerin told The Athletic, "We're still pretty flexible on that. It could be a situation where it's like a hybrid." The potential was broken down by Joe Smith a little more. While Philip Gustafsson's name was floated in trade rumors earlier in the summer, it appears he will be returning. And there's an added wrinkle of top prospect Jesper Wallstedt being part of a 3-goalie rotation. President and general manager Bill Guerin has said that Wallstedt could be on the roster all season or for just parts of it. Guerin goes on to say, for Fleury's part, Guerin said playing a number of games in the low 40s is realistic. He played 40 last season and 46 a year earlier. And they quote Matty Beniers, a former NHL goaltender. It's really not easy for guys to be able to do that close to their 40s. If Marc-Andre Fleury goes out, plays 40 games at a high level, I'm going to be absolutely impressed. I think he can do it because he's a physical specimen, but it's more than being in good physical shape. Alex, it looks as though the Minnesota Wild are going into the season with the assumption that Fleury's going to give them 40. Is this realistic, or is this just asking for problems?
Yeah, that's tough with his age. Just because if he gets hurt, at his age, it can linger for a while. But we still don't know if they're going to do the 3-goalie rotation either right now. Are they going to wait to save cap space by not doing that? Who knows? Because this team, for the past couple seasons, has not been able to stay 100% healthy. Like you said on the live show, only 2 players made it the full 82. So, I mean, with the way they've been and the injuries that they've had, there hasn't been, just dings. It's been some major injuries. I mean, you lose the captain right away. And so it's just, it piled on from there. So, yeah. And you have guys that got hurt were at some key positions in the team too. So it's I'd be nervous to carry 3 goalies for a while with knowing that's hanging over your head.
Yeah, and it's a situation too where like is your plan B? So your plan A then is that you can just evenly split Gustafsson and Fleury.
Mm-hmm.
Is your plan B then if Fleury can't handle it that okay, Jesper then just gets all of those starts? Because I just
we have an unknown on Gus too because he was out of shape last season. So is he going to get back to what he was, prior to that? Who knows? I mean, he's going to be motivated too. So, after having a tough season. So, yeah, we'll see if he can get back to what he was.
Well, and they in the article that I'm referencing here from The Athletic,
mm-hmm.
They talk specifically to the Buffalo Sabres because they went with a 3-goalie rotation for a good part of the season last year, and here's an exact quote that I think should be kind of concerning for those that are skeptical as to whether a 3-goalie rotation can work. I believe it's Craig Anderson,
mm-hmm.
Who retired in 2023. He had this to say about a potential 3-goalie rotation. He was part of one with Eric Comrie and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. He said he knew he might play once a week, and it still wasn't easy. It takes a special 3 guys to make it work. And the third guy has to be in a mentor type role where he knows he's not really going to play. And this runs completely opposite to what Bill Guerin has said about, him coming in. And
I don't think Fleury came back for that at all.
Smith says Fleury will definitely be in that role, but Guerin said it's not a situation where he'll just play 10 or 15 games and cede the net to Wallstedt. There's also Gustafsson, who the Wild say is looking good in Sweden this offseason. He's trying to bounce back from a disappointing season in which he had an .899 save percentage and a .306 goals against average. Guerin says he might not be the guy from 2 years ago, but he's better than the guy he was last year. That I agree with.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you're running counterintuitive to what should normally happen with the team. Like we've talked all about how, this roster feels like they're built backwards. Like you reinforce the bottom six and hope that you can find some pieces to fit in the top six. You're going into a situation where you have a guy in Marc-Andre Fleury who very clearly should be in like a mentor role. And you're going to give him 40. You're going to hope that he can get through 40 games this season without issue. Like, I just would rather that the team stop trying to do all this. Like, I know.
And that wasn't the only signing like that. Like Yakov Trenin is basically Marcus Foligno on, just Marcus Foligno 2.0. I mean, they are the same player. Maybe Trenin, isn't as physical, but I mean, they play the exact type of role. And I mean, they didn't need another third, fourth liner. That made no sense when it clearly is a hole still on the second line. Like Trenin's not going to play in the top six. So I don't understand that move still.
Another quote from the article: if you're going to ride Fleury and Gus, you need to bury Wallstedt in the minors. The agent's going to be pissed. The money side of things is going to be pissed.
Yeah.
But that's going to springboard him into a starting role better than being a second, third guy, getting a spot start, practicing every day. That's 100%. Like, that's 100% right. Is you're not serving him at all, being like putting him in the mentor role as a rookie and saying, okay, we're going to get you one game a week. Like, that does him no good.
No. He's just sitting in the press box then, that you don't want that. You don't want that. It's going to get everybody in an awkward position. And did Buffalo make the playoffs? No. So that tells you everything that you need to know. It's like the saying, like if you have two quarterbacks, you really have no quarterbacks, right? So it's like you have three goalies. Do you have one? No. Or it's just like there's too much unknown.
And what happens too if there aren't enough games to spread around for a three-goalie rotation and everybody struggles to be consistent? Here's another quote: if you're only looking at one guy where it's a negative, you can deal with it. But when all three of your goaltenders are finding negatives in the situation, that's when it becomes a disaster. Like, let's just not do this. Let's just not, and save the stress and just not do it. But here we are. When you're trying to make everybody happy, nobody's happy. That's really what it is.
And from what it looks like Guerin really did try to trade Gus, but didn't get, the value that he was looking for, because look at how many goalies have been moved, and Askarov just got moved. So, I mean, it just looks like they didn't get what they wanted as far as trade packages back, which is really, really frustrating, because look at all the quotes that you read off. And I mean, none of it's been, super positives, like, a team making the playoffs speak from it. No, it just, it didn't happen. Montreal tried to do three goalies last year too. They didn't make the playoffs. So
that didn't work.
It's another team. So when teams aren't making the playoffs, and you didn't make the playoffs last year, and you're desperate, to get back in, why try to do it? It's not, previous studies are not showing it working.
Well, I guess we'll see. There's a month before the season starts. Something could change, but at this point, Gus and Flower, and the best thing, if it's going to be those two on the roster, the best thing that you can do is have Jesper on Iowa playing every day. Mm-hmm. That's what best serves him now is reps. Right. You're not going to do him any favors by having him sit at the NHL level and play once a week.
Right. No, it just does not. Yeah. For supposedly the first or second best goalie prospect in the world, if you want to, go with him or Askarov. So
Yikes.
And he might, Askarov wanted out of Nashville, and now he might be in the dreaded 3-goalie situation in San Jose, like I talked about on the live show with him, Mackenzie Blackwood, and Vitek Vanacek. Yeah, it's be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, no kidding. Speaking of be careful what you wish for, a recent extension signed by Matty Beniers might have a little bit of an impact on Marco Rossi's upcoming deal. We'll take a look at what Beniers got, as well as a couple of other recent extensions to try to get an idea of what Marco Rossi will sign for. That's on the way as we continue today's episode of Locked on Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. Folks, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, do we have a little something different for you? Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5. $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV right in time for the NFL season to get underway. A 3-week trial. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked on Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, make sure to check out Locked on NHL. We are keeping you up to date with all of the biggest news throughout the NHL with our wide array of hosts throughout the week. At-large NHL coverage on Mondays and Fridays, Western Conference Tuesday, Eastern Conference Wednesday, and Power Rankings Thursday, giving you as many big NHL headlines as you can handle. That's Locked on NHL, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. Alex, Matty Beniers just signed for 7 years, $49.9999999 million. His cap hits over the until he is a 28-year-old, until the 2031 season. $7.142857 million per season. Beniers is coming off of a season in which he scored 15 goals, 22 assists. So a little bit of a dip from his Calder Trophy winning season 2 years ago, in which he had 24 goals and 33 assists. But still a piece that the Seattle Kraken are building around, expecting to be a big part of their future. And a model similar to how the Minnesota Wild have handled their recent extensions, where you pay a little bit more on the front end and you hope that you've got a bargain as the deal unfolds. Now, the thing with Beniers is you look at his numbers, according to the Athletics player cards, he was a -4 offensively in his net rating. Defensively, he was a +4. And his market value was that of a $3.8 million player per year. I enter into the discussion Marco Rossi, who this past season was a -1 offensively, +4 defensively for a total net rating of +3. He played to a market value of $4.7 million. 21 goals, 19 assists, 40 total points. He's 22 years old. And so I ask, this is going to serve no purpose other than to just drive the price up for Marco Rossi, because it's interesting to look at where Rossi's at compared to where Beniers is at. They do some things similar, but they've got different aspects to their game too. But if you gave me a choice between the two, it'd be a tough call. Honestly, I think Rossi does the dirty things better. Beniers might be a little more of a flashy player, but I think Rossi does all the gritty, dirty stuff way better, which leads me to believe I'd probably take him between the two.
Yeah, that's a really tough one. I watched him at Michigan. He was just an absolute beast. But I love the way Marco plays, and I was just looking at Seattle too, and they're a newer franchise, and so they didn't really have a lot of big ticket contracts, and so it makes sense where they kind of overpaid. Look at the other deals that they kind of dished out. Chandler Stevenson got way overpaid. Brandon,
he got a 7-year deal himself.
Yeah, so they were they were ready to dish out some money to some guys. So I think Beniers, just it was good timing for him. He got that contract.
A couple of players who have recently signed extensions that could also factor in. Anton Lindell, who actually is of the same draft class as Marco Rossi. He was picked 12th that season, and he just won the Stanley Cup. Had 13 goals, 22 assists. So he had 35 points in 78 games. He just signed this offseason a 6-year deal for $30 million. And you look at where Lundell has been, he's actually gotten 3 seasons in, 18 goals, 12 goals, 13 goals. And so he's a little further ahead in the process than Marco Rossi is at this point, but his value, I think, is more on the defensive side of the equation
100%.
than offensive. And another name who had arguably his breakout season this past year, Quentin Byfield, he signed a 5-year, $31.25 million contract after 20 goals, 35 assists, and 55 total points in 80 games. Byfield was also a 2020 draft pick. He was picked number 2 in that class. And so, we talk a lot about like what is Marco Rossi's next contract going to be, and I guess based off of what Lundell, Byfield, based off of what those guys have done, and Matty Beniers too, I would guess it would be somewhere in the, just based off of these, somewhere in the 6 to 6.5 AAV range, maybe more like 6.5 to 6.7 for his next deal. And you look at if he would get that, and if he continues to progress, that wouldn't be a bad number.
No, not at all. Him and Seth, we were talking pre-show, him and Seth Rossi and Jarvis were also in that same draft class, and they saw what Lundell got, and they're going right to their agents saying, hey,
yep,
yeah, we were picked in the similar range. We want that money, because that's life-changing money for no matter what people say that is life-changing, even if it's relatively not a ton in terms of big monster deals that we see that would change Marco's life forever. And I think he offensively is a better player than Lundell, but like you said too, when you win the Stanley Cup, the prices get inflated for sure.
Yeah. If you look at the numbers for the team, Rossi was tied with Matt Boldy for the second most even strength goals on the team. And Rossi did that by large playing with Matt Zuccarello and Marcus Johansson. Now there was some line juggling. He did play with Zuccarello and Kirill for a bit, but especially down the stretch, it was pretty much exclusively Zuccarello and Johansson, and he still managed 21 goals on the season, and 19 of those being even strength. He did a lot with not a lot of help. which I think is the thing that Wild fans should be encouraged by, is his ability to do what he did with
And you
less
named
than
it.
ideal help.
You named it even strength too. That's impressive because a lot of guys in this age they're trying to get their cookies on the power play or get pitch in shorthanded. So and like you said too, he's or we've talked about in the past. I mean, he's adapted his game too to to get to grind and some. I think it's helped that when he wasn't in the top six, that he learned how to grind in the bottom six. So
Yeah.
when he was ready to take that next step, he still kept that element to his game. And this is a guy that's still who knows if he's even at his full strength yet, after, I mean, COVID, really took a lot out of him. So I couldn't even imagine. So to overcome that and everything that he had to deal with. And so it was, it paid off this past season, getting on the all rookie team. That's huge for him and his confidence.
Early reports from Michael Russo are that he came to Minnesota in better shape now than he was at any point last year.
And he's showing maturity by skipping that Olympic qualifier too, because I know that's a big deal for his tiny country in Austria and trying to make the next Olympics. And would hopefully, unless any barring just a complete reverse on what has been reported, that the next Olympics is going to probably have NHL players. We don't know about Russia, but imagine if Marco would be able to represent Austria in the in that
be a huge honor.
Olympics. Yeah, so it's showing a lot by skipping that. So he wants this bad to he wants to be successful, not just a one-hit wonder in the NHL.
He took the initial send down to Iowa after his first 19-game stint. He took that to heart. And, we've talked in the past, the everydayers have heard me say this before. Wasn't all his fault, but it's not about the reasons that you get put in those situations. It's what you do after them.
What you do with it.
Yeah. What you do with that situation. And he put in his time down in Iowa. He turned into just a pain in the rear end to play against. And he's basically never stopped training since. And so he's primed to, I think, continue his leap up, which is likely going to mean a leap up in salary too, which I'm sure we're all just ecstatic to hear.
And they need that though, because
they do.
You look at the contract extensions for a lot of those guys, they're a lot older than Marco. And so they need a youthful spot that's, not, locked into that older core. And, they need somebody behind Kaprizov and Boldy as far as young guys to, to get that 20, 25, closer to 25 if this team wants to be a playoff team. Because you take a look at Zuccarello. He, at this stage in his career, he's not really a goal scorer, and he gets continued to get, banged up. And so they need some youth and some speed, because you look at all the other teams in the division, they've continued to add speed. I mean, every time they play the Dallas Stars and you see Jason Robertson go out there, it's like, and now, they're adding the Logan Stankovens of the world. And so, I mean, they're getting their next crop of prospects into the full NHL team. And
the Wilds, Dallas.
Yes, it's the Roadrunner. Yeah,
that was a great visual representation for those watching on YouTube, because that didn't work at all. But the best part is that we're going to get an opportunity to watch Marco all season, because we have a little bit of clarity on the TV situation for the Minnesota Wild this upcoming season. And so we'll talk about who's back again. Bally's back. Tell a friend. We'll talk about it as we continue today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. We are your team every day. And friendly reminder, the Locked On Wild sweepstakes continues. All you need to do is send us a screenshot of proof that you are subscribed to Locked On Wild on YouTube. We'll get you entered in for a chance to win 2 tickets to see the Minnesota Wild take on the Columbus Dean Evisons on October 10th at XL Energy Center to open up the season. 2 home games for the Wild to start the year, and then 8 road games in a row. So this will be a perfect opportunity to see the team. And it's a great way to reward all of our wonderful subscribers on YouTube as we continue to try to make the trek to 3K by opening day. All you have to do, send a screenshot with your name to lockedonwild@gmail.com, and you're entered. And we'll draw our winner in early October. So appreciate everybody who has already subscribed. We're up to just about 2,800, and we'll continue to try to make that climb to 3K by opening day. Alex, guess who's back? back again. Bally's back. Tell a friend. Another article from The Athletic, and I read, Diamond Sports drops the Mavericks, but promises to broadcast 2024-2025 NBA and NHL seasons. Evan Drellich from The Athletic files this report. Regardless of whether it successfully emerges from bankruptcy, Diamond Sports Group, which broadcasts the Bally branded regional sports networks, is now promising it will operate through the 2024-2025 NBA and NHL seasons. This was written on Friday. Diamond Sports on Friday said it has reached agreements with both leagues and that as a part of the basketball deal, the broadcaster is stepping away from contracts with 2 teams, the Dallas Mavericks and the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans were already known to have made broadcasting arrangements elsewhere for the 2024-2025 season. The deals need to be approved by a federal bankruptcy judge with a hearing scheduled for September 3rd. Side note, I thought there was supposed to be one in July. I'm assuming that there just was another continuance given. Contract terms in both leagues have also been modified, presumably with some rights fee payment reductions, but no specific dollar figures were revealed in court filings on Friday. The filing covering the NBA positioned the Mavs and Pelicans departures as a mutual agreement with Diamond. Diamond will now carry 13 NBA teams and 9 NHL teams for the league's 2024-2025 seasons. If Diamond does emerge from bankruptcy, the NBA and NHL have both agreed to terms that would be in place beyond 2024-2025 as well.
Everybody just wants them to be over with. We saw him with baseball. I think this is the end after this season, unless they can convince the MLB teams to come back with them. But I know the Twins deal is up after this season, so
I
it's a
just
mess.
don't understand why Diamond Sports has been given so much. Like if I bent over backwards this much, I would snap my spine in half.
Right.
And they just continue. Like, listen to this. For Diamond to emerge from bankruptcy, it needs to hold a confirmation hearing where a judge approves a plan. One was scheduled in late July, but was pushed back when Diamond said it needed to make significant changes to its plan. If I'm a judge at that point, I say,
Right.
nope, not going to do it because you
Right.
guys have had
Continuance after continuance.
you guys have had I don't even know how many chances
Right.
at this point.
Right. And it's the business plan is not working. And so, I mean, there was talk, locally too, that, local channels in the Twin Cities want to broadcast Wild games. And I think people would really enjoy that because not everybody gets Bally, not even the app. And so it would just get more eyes on the team. You might not make as much money, but that loyalty is so important too.
Well, and here's the thing about this too that is so frustrating is yeah, you're losing on the subscription-based model.
Mm-hmm.
You can make that money back hand over fist in advertising because
100%.
what companies wouldn't want to be part of that because you're being seen by an exponentially higher audience with these. Another part of this, another piece of this paragraph, Diamond on Friday proposed a new arrangement with some of its key debt holders that positioned October 1st and November 15th as significant procedural deadlines. So, guess what they did? They took that July deadline and they're like, "Oh, there's no chance we can make this. So let's throw it to October and see if
Random
we have a
October date.
better chance there." It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, and this might be, I hope this isn't taken as me, like, I'm not even talking about the broadcast side at all.
Mm.
This is purely on the Diamond Sports as the holders of the broadcast rights. The fact that they just continue to get to push this down the line is a joke.
Yeah. Well,
At some point, a judge just has to say, no, you've run out of chances. You're on your 9th strike. You're on your 15th empty shootout attempt. Like, it's over. You don't get any more chances.
They ruined their relationship with the Twins and the MLB teams. It just, Twins fans didn't get to see the team for 3 months. Yeah, 3-4 months. That is just unacceptable. And that can't happen with the NHL because the NHL is even more of a niche sport than MLB. So it's very frustrating because the local channels here would absolutely love to be a part of the Wild, and you see it with Fox 9 doing pre-game and post-game Vikings coverage, so they would just love to do Wild games for sure.
I think the literal phrase that was used for the local channels is that they are ready to step in.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're ready and waiting, and I hope at the least, even though it seems like Bally's is on their 29th life at this point, I hope the Wilds took this opportunity to see what else is out there.
Right.
At the least.
Well, I know you have the Bally app, and if it crashes, do they even have engineers to get it back going? It's at this point, the technology and everything. It's just it's not good for the long-term future. I know there was talks with Alex Rodriguez and and Mark Lowry trying to get a private equity group together and try to get all the the Minnesota teams together on one type of package, which should be intriguing. But we'll see if anything ever comes about with that.
Honestly, like selfishly, all the cities or states or geographical locations that have 4 teams should just do their own thing.
Yeah.
Like just, and I know that's what Bally's was,
right?
But
it's amazing that the NFL, like the other leagues, don't look at what the NFL has done, and they never had any issues because they didn't try to do the regional sports network for their leagues, and I mean they're the top dog for a reason, and the NHL and MLB they can never get out of their own ways. Sometimes it's they're tied together. They just can never figure it out. And the NHL, at least now they're starting to make more money, but they struggle with you look at their TV deals compared to NBA and NFL. It's a complete joke.
All I know is if I was trying to emerge from bankruptcy, if I had a hearing scheduled in late July, I would not get a continuance to October.
No,
not a chance.
That's when those basketball and hockey are gearing up for their seasons. That couldn't be a worse time to have a court case looming over your head, or the organization.
A judge would not say, you know what? Okay, we'll give you till October 1st and November 15th
like,
to get
what's going to change? Yeah,
they're
what's
like,
going to change on your end?
You pay now. Get this taken care of now. So
you're just kicking the can down the road.
They've been kicking it down the Audubon at this point.
Yes.
Just absurd. But looks like that's what we got for this upcoming season. So hooray.
We'll see. Yeah.
And again, not talking about the broadcast side at all.
No.
Not
it's like
even a little bit.
It's like the emoji the shaking hand emoji, unknown for the Wild as how the season's going to go, and unknown for future TV. It's just unknown.
Yeah. Who knows? who knows what's going to happen? But that's what we got for you for today. So thank you everybody for tuning in to yet another episode of Locked On Wild as we continue to lead you through the rest of the offseason. Season is just under a month away from starting. So we thank you for tuning in. We thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day and making us part of your daily routine. If you have not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week, especially with what we have coming up here once the season gets rolling. So make sure to hit that sub button, turn those notifications on so you don't miss out on any new episodes. We have new episodes for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.